here we are, we're walking on the ship, and we're gonna do a tour of the ship in a little bit. Actually, a lot of bit, because we're gonna have a full day at sea to do that. And we'll be touring this thing for 7 days. But here's kind of our itinerary, and we'll put a map up to kind of show you. But first, this is Seward Harbor in Resurrection Bay, and we're about, again, 2 hours prior to departure on our inter-passage cruise down the Panhandle. So we're gonna start at Seward. Then we have a day at sea scheduled. Hopefully we'll get to see the Hubbard Glacier, but that's always dicey depending on fog. And then we're gonna go down to Juneau and Skagway. And a place called Frozen Icy Strait. Never heard of that one before. Then south to Ketchikan. Then we have another day at sea, and then down to Vancouver. So a full 7 days, and we're excited. We're not really big cruisers. We've done this a cruise 3 or 4 times, but this one looks to be a little bit different. And really, I think to see the passage, inner passage, cruising is the perfect way to do it. Well, so the first thing we're going to do is tour the ship. This is our first of 2 full days at sea. And starting off a bit cloudy, which is kind of to be expected. So hopefully we'll get some sun on this trip. But it's not like you come to Alaska for sun at this time of year. But when it shows and peaks out, it's glorious. I just wanna hit the floor. Maybe somewhere I haven't been. We're on the Celebrity Summit. And this is kind of an older ship. This is the smallest class of Celebrity, which is an upscale cruise line. This ship dates back to its maiden voyage in October of 2001, and I've seen this ship a lot down in Miami and Key West where we live, and so it's cool to see it up here and actually be on board. And don't let her looks fool you. You know, she's really perfect for these kind of ports because the enormous 5,000 people oasis and icons of the seas, which I would be abhorred to be on, those can't get into a lot of these ports here in Alaska. But so the Seward port is actually, it's perfect for the mission that we're on, and it's a very intimate ship, and a lot of people love it and come back. So a few interesting facts. Again, don't let her age fool you. She has been completely refurbished and revitalized in 2019 and then again in 2022. So has a lot of the very, very modern guest rooms and features and aesthetic and design, and so it looks as good as new, and you would never guess that she's that old, and is part of Celebrity Cruises' $500 million upgrade program that they completed to the fleet, and they call these the Edge ships. This ship here can maximize its occupancy around 2,600 people. There's a crew of about 1,000. There's 11 guest decks. It's 99,940 tons. The beam is 106 feet long, and her draft is 26 feet deep. And she's 965 feet long, so that's a little bit over 3 football fields. And so we're going to take a tour. And first, we're going to take a look at our suites. We have these beautiful, what they're called the Sky Suites. And these are upgraded. They have these beautiful verandas, a little bit larger in terms of square footage. They're like 255 square foot, and really, really beautiful. They look very modern, and we have access to our own restaurant and our own bar and our own lounge and happy hour and our own floor. And so they're really, really beautiful, and we're really frankly blinged out. You get access to your own hot tub and area to kind of chill and relax. So there's a lot of indiscreet, special, secret perks that you get between the restaurants, the bars, and the little nooks and crannies with the suites, and they kindly gave us a bottle of champagne. So we're already very impressed with our Sky Suite. And here's another cool feature, is the in-house video entertainment system. Though I don't know why you'd be watching TV while you're on a ship, But the moving map is fun to watch, and a pretty cool assortment of movies and films when you're not on the Wi-Fi. But again, you shouldn't even be on the Wi-Fi. But I decided to scan the channels and show you what was on anyway. So walking around outside, we see people walking around using the gym, getting the exercise, getting their steps in. There's pools, pickleballs, pods, and even potions as in adult drinks. Oh my, everywhere. And what's a cruise ship without a casino? Fortunately for us, we stayed pretty clear of this place because the cruise was expensive enough, and as you know, the house, or in this case, the ship, generally wins. Even though very cool casino, I might add. So let's walk around some of the bars, the libation stations. There's bars all over this place. Retail therapy, stores galore, and beautiful grand gathering public spaces on the celebrity summits. I mean, she's really gorgeous after this facelift, and really for us, it's the perfect size. It doesn't overwhelm us. It just feels very, very spacious. Let's talk about dining. There are 9 dining venues and 3 specialty restaurants. These are restaurants where you pay a little bit extra cost. So the restaurants, you have the Cosmopolitan, which is the very big, massive celebrity dining, kind of mass market one. You have Blue, which is really specializes here in, they call it clean cuisine. We love this place. And this is really a special restaurant just for us in the Aqua class in the suites. That's only open to those customers. And then you have this funky restaurant I really didn't get to see much, but it's La Petite Chef, a cuisine. That's kind of a fun fusion of entertainment and cuisine for kids and teens, but we don't have those with us today. We're traveling just as a couple. The Ocean View Cafe, big variety of menu food. It's like a classic buffet, so it's kind of the gathering spot for breakfast and lunch. And the delicious, spectacular Tuscan grill, Italian-inspired cuisine, steaks, homemade pastas, butcher meats. Again, really phenomenal. It's one of those specialty restaurants, requires a reservation. And these specialty restaurants, again, those also tend to come at extra cost. You don't need to go because, again, your meals are included in your meal plan, but these are for a little extra special. The Spa Cafe, grabbing a little bit of special breakfast. We'd have little muffins and fruit here. It's very easy, close to the gym. Get some smoothies, really nice. And then here's Lumine, a culinary expression of modern eclectic cuisine and extraordinary service exclusively for the retreat guests. And so we're part of that too. So we really enjoyed Lumine. And I think what really is spectacular is you can't go wrong in any of these places. The food is wonderful. The service is so hospitable. They know your food allergies. They know things you like, they don't like. They're just so kind. It's really, really special. And we are actually underway, finally departing. Here we go. Farewell to Seward Harbor and the beginning of the Inner Passage tour. Going from here. And Gary has joined us while we're getting ready to go.
Welcome on board.
First flight, first departure. All right, so we're finally underway, departing Resurrection Bay into the open ocean waters of the Gulf of Alaska en route to Hubbard Glacier. Right now we've about 1 meter seas, so pretty gentle. That's about 3 feet. And the air temperature, 52 degrees, and it's just really nice. It's gently rocking us into sedation. It's been a long day, and the sunset is at 11:23 local time, so for us, for now, good night. On our day at sea, we were supposed to pull into Disenchantment Bay to see the icebergs up close, and this is a true highlight, but it's been scrubbed because there's floating ice chunks in the water and there's a lot of wind and current, and so we don't really want to turn into Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet in Titanic. We don't want that outcome, so safety is always paramount. So we're not going in. We're just going to continue safely on to our first stop, which is going to be Juneau, Alaska tomorrow, the capital, and a place I've been so excited to return to. Last time I was there was in 1995. So we're going to have a great dinner. I wouldn't call this a sunset. I guess it's a cloud set. And be prepared to get hopefully a little nice night's sleep so we can be up bright and early, up and at 'em for our day in Juneau, Alaska. Deadliest catch right there. Good morning from our first port of call under the soggy, leaden gray skies of dramatically beautiful Juneau, Alaska. This is my first time back here since 1995, and Alaska's capital city can only be reached by boat or plane. This diminutive burg of 30,000 residents is cruise ship central in the summer, and always reminds me of Switzerland with kind of a frontier town twist. So repeatedly over the years, there have been attempts to relocate the capital of Alaska out of this rather sparsely populated distant panhandle area to Anchorage in South Central, which is where the bulk of the state's 700,000 people live. Though Alaska is 3 times the size of Texas and larger than the land area of the next top 6 states combined, Alaska has the least population density in the U.S., and the weather can change on a dime, so hopefully we'll get a little bit of sunshine through the clouds. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a bus tour around and we're going to be Uber tourists because there are thousands of them out here. There's like 4 or 5 cruise ships and I think everybody's on an organized tour. So we're touring around on the bus. I can't help but put my camera up around and see the outskirts of Juneau. Here's a fun fact. The Greater Juneau Borough, which is kind of what they call a consolidated area of the city and the county, ranks as the second largest municipality in the United States by area and is larger than both Rhode Island and Delaware, those states put together. And again, just under 30,000 year-round population, and it's isolated. You cannot drive here from the United States or Canada. It's truly fascinating, this vast area. I'd forgotten just how large and expansive it is, and such diverse scenery as you travel. In the past, I had a rental car and was able to go do this myself last time I was here, but we're going to go with the flow. And so our first stop is Ice with My Baby at Mendenhall Glacier. This ice field is 13.6 miles long and about 1.5 miles wide. It's just 12 miles from downtown Juneau, and it too is in retreat due to climate change. Sadly, it's shrinking. Well, here we are at the fish hatchery. Actually, the Macaulay salmon hatchery. And talk about long odds. Only about 5 to 10% of the smolting salmon's 2,500 eggs survive to make the 4 to 6 year round trip from their hatchery birthplace to the same hatchery where they will meet their demise and have their eggs harvested. It's sad, but it's the circle of life. And I've always found it, well, a little bit melancholy. But it sure is delicious. And bonus points to those of you who can name the big 5 species of salmon. This sight makes me hungry and again sad at the same time. So as I said earlier, Juneau is the state capital of Alaska, and the Alaska State Capitol and other state and federal buildings are here. Juneau hosts the Alaska Legislature and the offices of the Governor of Alaska and the Lieutenant Governor, and it was opened in 1931 as the federal building, as you can see here. Now, when Alaska gained statehood, these buildings that were called territorial homes to the legislature actually became home to the state legislature, and that's remained the way ever since. And these efforts have been made to relocate Juneau, as I've mentioned, but these began as early as 1960 when the proposal happened, but it's always failed, as you can see. And these capitol and territorial buildings are unique, and they look kind of almost minimalist. They're office buildings. They don't have domes or big towers. They're pretty straightforward, and a lot of the office buildings are kind of brutalist construction and a few modern glass construction. And here is, like a library and state museum. So some interesting architecture. I always love getting off the beaten path and looking at the architecture. The next piece of architecture over here is Alaska's Governor's Mansion, or the Casa de Gov. And this mansion was first occupied in 1912 by the territorial governor, again before Alaska was a state. Alaska's had 12 governors since statehood living here, including a very famous mama bear, you might remember her, Sarah Palin. Here we are again doing one of my favorite pastimes, zillowing around Juneau, looking at some northern exposure real estate, looking at all the homes. I just can't get enough. Especially something I love is the gardens and the rich flowers and greenery. This feels a lot different in the panhandle of Alaska than it does maybe a little further up north. Temperature is a lot more mild, and things are generally more wet down here. During the winter, Juneau kind of hibernates. Sure, there's the fishing fleet and year-round people that a lot of them work for the government, the state government being the state capital. But in the summer, a completely different story. Up to 4 to 6 cruise ships simultaneously dock here in port, and they disgorge 10 to 15,000 passengers and crew in a town that has a population of just 30,000 people year-round. And then poof, when the night comes, when the ships leave, they're gone. So 1 out of 78 Alaskans possess a pilot's license. Those are my kind of people. And in many cases, remote bush flying is the only realistic form of transportation. Flying is a way of life here and a way of survival, where de Havilland beavers and otters have wings. Get this party started. So after all this walking around, we're starting to get a little hungry, a little peckish, a little parched, and so we found this area that has some food trucks. Yes, Alaska is not immune from that craze either, and some outdoor bars and fire pits, and just a nice place to sit outside and soak up the sun, or in this case, soak up the liquid sunshine and the rather balmy 50 degrees by Alaska Panhandle standards. That's kind of summery weather, so we're just going to do what the locals do and the tourists do and relax and take a little bit of a stroll around this outdoor place. All right, we're at the amazing Mount Juneau Trading Post. This place, I mean, there's a lot of knickknack and souvenir stands and stores everywhere, but this one is so popular that there's often a line to get in it. And as you can see why, the walls are just covered in every kind of tchotchke that you can think of. And of course, we couldn't resist a few things. For me, I collect refrigerator magnets, and I had trouble choosing. So though Juneau, actually the largest capital city in the United States by land mass, and that's 3,255 square miles total, and about 920 square miles of that is ice cap, and 704 square miles is water, which means the actual city itself, the core of it, is really compact, and it's a delight to walk, and you can walk up some pretty steep hills and very, very up and down inclinations, and a lot of really nice architecture here. I mean, you see some from the territorial area well before Alaska was a state. And one thing I really love here is all the really neat sculptures of bears and notable people. And of course, being Alaska, there's a lot of totem poles. So just a lot of really interesting visual eye candy. And then when you have these pine trees and a lot of wet and rain, it just feels like a rainforest, even in the midst of an urban city. So a lot of surprises when you walk around the tourist areas, of course, where all the people are, with lots of fun restaurants, stores, and bars. I really enjoy that. A lot of energy. But then when you walk outside that area and you go see the governor's mansion and the Capitol and a lot of the homes and the residential areas, it's really a really neat place just to soak up and get your steps in. And that's one of the most enjoyable parts of Juneau, in my opinion. So there's certainly a lot of Juneau pride here. Look at all the sloganeering and signs of the times posted on all the streetlights in Anchorage. These are really quirky and fun. Now these are some deadliest catches. Paging Captain Sig from Deadliest Catch for some king crab. And I just want to say the word market price applies here. If you have to ask, you probably don't want to pay for it. This was even a little too rich for our blood. Sure looks delicious though. We'll save the crabs for later in the trip. Oh my God, it's insane. Deadliest Catch right there. Speaking of quirky and fun, this is the world-famous Red Dog Saloon in downtown Juneau. A side of sawdust is included with every cold beer and meal. This feels like an old frontier town place, and in the winter, this is one of the few places still open for the locals. And I'm sure if these walls could talk, and apparently by all the animals and pictures on the wall they do, this place would have a whole lot of stories. All right, so one of the favorite things I love to do, obviously, is to fly the Sloan drone. And I bought the little mini Mavic 3 Mini Pro HD. So we're gonna do a little flying around Juneau. And one thing I just wanna say about this, you gotta be very careful. There are float planes. It seems to be a restricted zone, but I only found that out after we landed because it didn't show up on any of my maps. It didn't show up on my briefings, but it did show up on a sign. So I was lucky to get these shots, but I wouldn't recommend it because, again, there's a lot of float plane and seaplane traffic here in Juneau, and probably not something you should do to be safe. But as long as I did it, here's my pictures and video with my apologies to the authorities. All right, so The next trip is Don't Look Down. We're going up Mount Roberts via the Goldbelt tram, and to me this is a can't miss experience, and it's the perfect alternative to schlepping up the mountain by foot. I mean, I love getting exercise. I exercise every day and I do a lot of it, but the tendonitis would probably get to me, and we don't have much time. So don't look down, here we go. So as we're going up the tram, a few facts. The maximum speed is about 2,000 feet per minute. It takes 6 minutes to ascend, and about 60 people can fit here inside these tram cars. And these opened in 1996, so we missed it the last time we were here in 1995. But wow, what an adventure. And even if you have vertigo, just get over it. This is so totally worth it. Now that we're up here, you have a restaurant, a theater, retail shops. They're all at the top of the tramway, and there's also a lot of amazing hiking up here. And with these trails that lead both up and down the mountain into many mountains, and you can go into pretty remote areas, but we don't have time. You can see the Gatineau Channel, Juneau, a rainforest, and Mount Douglas. They're all within view from the peak. Alright, so sadly it's time to bid adieu, Juneau, and our next port of call will be Skagway. Now, for the balance of the voyage, we're going to be into the calmer, protected waters of the Inner Passage, and as we make our way southeast, eventually down to Ketchikan and Vancouver. So we're pulling out here, and as you can see, as we say goodbye and ride up the channel, it's 9:30 here, Alaska time, and sunset is at 10 o'clock and sunrise is at 3:50. So all aboard was around 8, and we're now going up the channel, and it's going to stay cloudy like this for quite a while. So we'll see you once again, Juneau. We really love this place. Well, happy Canada Day. A year ago we were in Banff for Canada Day, and today we're over 1,000 miles northwest in Skagway. So super excited to be here. Our next Alaska Inner Passage port of call is the gateway to the Klondike, Skagway. Now, what does the name Skagway mean? It's actually an English modification of an indigenous word which figuratively means rough seas in the Taya Inlet, which are caused by strong north winds, and we've been feeling them today. But the seas were smooth as we traversed, but the winds were really whipping, so it's all kind of coming up now. So people do actually live year-round in Skagway. As of the 2020 census, the population of this municipality in Alaska was 1,240. However, the population can fluctuate depending on the season, with some estimates suggesting a population of nearly double during the tourist season this summer. And as I like to do, I ventured off the main drag to check out some local neighborhoods. Churches, the library, City Hall, business. Lots of businesses, actually. And it's really a cute town with kind of a tight-knit, pulled-together camaraderie. I really liked it. So much more than I expected it to be. Now it's all gussied up for a massive influx of summer tourists. This tiny port town of little more than 1,000 year-round residents celebrates its larger-than-life place in history in the Alaskan gold rush of the late 1800s. Now the White Pass and Yukon routes, narrow-gauge railroads, are part of the area's mining's past, and now it's in operation purely for the tourist trade. Now the locals are particularly proud of these new public restrooms, which have free Wi-Fi, hence all the crowds. And interestingly enough, the National Park Service owns much of the real estate and buildings in this town, leasing them to private businesses. So because it's Park Service, there'll be no drone flying today. Well, where long ago the railroad ruled, the lifeblood of Skagway today is the port of Skagway. It is one of the northernmost ice-free deepwater ports in North America that offer intermodal shipping access to Pacific shipping lines through its existing port infrastructure. Now, due to its strategic location, the Port of Skagway provides key year-round transportation access and capacity between the contiguous United States, the Yukon Territory, Northern British Columbia, the Northwest Territories, Northern Alaska, Asia, and Europe, while also accommodating a robust seasonal cruise industry, like us, for the area. 4 ships again were in port today. Now, unlike Juneau, Skagway is actually connected to the lower 48 states and Canada by rail and ground transportation. The Port of Skagway supports intermodal industry by providing berthing space and infrastructure for everything from barge services to passenger vessels to cruise ships over 1,000 feet in length, fishing vessels, and even just some recreational crafts. Riding the rails again. The White Pass Railroad felt like the ultimate Disney attraction, but this 27-mile-long miracle of engineering is the real deal. Completed in just 27 months in 1898 using only hand tools, black powder, and regional timber. White Pass and Yukon route rises almost 2,900 feet from sea level at the Port of Skagway, where we were, to the White Pass summit on the US-Canada border in just 20 miles. This is one of the steepest climbs of any railroad in the world. It carried freight and passengers until 1982, and after a short pause was reborn as a tourist attraction in 1989. The terrains, the weather changes, the temperature changes, and the vistas just changed by the miles and altitude. I'm telling you, Disney can't even touch this one. This is my magic bride who's very cold now, right?
I feel better now that we're lower.
She feels better now knowing we're about to get off.
Yeah.
Yes, because she wants coffee. Thank you for your ride.
You're welcome.
It was really remarkable.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Yes,
Bye-bye. making a run for the border, literally. We took the train over to Canada, and now we're taking the bus back over to the US in Alaska. Very, very strange to be seeing the Welcome to Alaska and Welcome to America sign just as we enter US Port of Authority, the customs back in the United States. Hello, we're standing at a really interesting border here. This one warrants a big photo stop, and it is the border between two provinces, British Columbia and Yukon. Which one has a cooler sign? Now this bridge has some sway. The family-owned Yukon Suspension Bridge is a pedestrian cable suspension bridge located on mile 46.5 on the South Klondike Highway in northern British Columbia, Canada. It's 200 feet long and stretches 57 feet over the Tutsi River Canyon. And now, so we're in this beautiful restaurant at the Yukon Suspension Bridge where you can have anything you want to eat for lunch as long as it's bodacious bison chili. So bring on the thundering heat, which is really scorching and welcome because, baby, it's cold outside. And what I thought was really neat is you can get your passport stamped, and note the time zones are different between Alaska and British Columbia. Yay, it's the Yukon in Canada. Woo-hoo. Thank you very much, our first. The first stamp in the new passport is that time change as we are on the border between Alaska and Canada here at the Yukon Suspension Bridge. It's actually more kind of like touristy, obviously. It's not really customs. That comes later. The bridge is in British Columbia, not Yukon, but it's close. That's the brilliance of marketing. And yet one more sign stop, and this one's really cool. We're returning in the United States into the frigid Alaska border. And I swear the temperature dropped 20 degrees just as we entered in Alaska, or maybe that was just in my head. And right now on the way back, let's take a nice 2-hour bus journey with a few little pit stops. As they say in Canada, we're out and about in the Yukon, British Columbia, and finally heading back into the panhandle of Alaska. And now we're departing Skagway for our next port of call, ICY Strait Point in Juneau, Alaska. And frankly, I don't have any idea what to expect here because I've never even heard of it. That's our next trip. Let's get some sleep, have some dinner, enjoy some beauty, and then big day tomorrow. So our next port we're entering is ICY Strait Point in Juneau, Alaska. I'm not sure quite what to expect because it's not quite a town that we're going to be visiting, but seems might be some kind of like theme park in the middle of Alaska? We'll find out. But first we have a tour to catch because we love doing our excursions. right, so we're heading offshore about 20 miles from ICY Strait Point to really the star of the show, why we're here, for a bit of whale watching. You can't come to Alaska and not whale watch, right? All right, so now we've got to meet some real, true Alaska celebrities, humpbacks and orcas, and these guys are putting on a whale of a show for us today in ICY Strait, leaving us absolutely gobsmacked. When you see these massive mammals frolicking and feeding in the wild, it's very hard to even conceive of them in captivity. Without question, the highlight of this trip. Now watch for the big finish and listen for the sound, because there's a lot of breathing, spouting, snorkeling, and whale noise. And all of a sudden they're everywhere. You get a whale, you get a whale, you get a whale, you get a whale. Breach, 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 breach. This is just awesome. Listen to this symphony of whale. Glacier Bay.
It's right over there.
But you actually can see the glaciers up there. I was up there like 30 years ago. Can you still see them?
You can. This one, they're both, this one's almost out of the water.
Now let's listen up for the humpback band.
There's one right there. There's one literally right there.
ICY Strait Point, the port, is about a mile outside the small town of Juneau, Alaska. Up to 4 cruise ships can dock here at any given time, some obviously out in the harbor as opposed to at the pier. Now the island itself can only be reached by sea or float plane. It's a fantastic base for water and land excursions, and I actually wish I could stay a little bit longer and go into town and see how the real folks live, but that's a bit of a schlep. So now we're going to take a walk through what looks like an outlet mall here in the middle of Alaska, but it's actually shops, restaurants, and a salmon cannery museum, which this is a really cool museum right here in ICY Strait Point. It first opened in 2004. Now this is the world's only private cruise ship port, which is a joint venture between local indigenous people and private enterprise. And for me, this looks like a win-win that's mercifully not another casino. It's really creative, professionally run, respectful to the environment, and a big boost to the local economy. Sure, it's touristy, but again, I'm really impressed by this very clever destination outpost, which is really for the cruise ship industry, carved out of a small slice of remote wilderness. it's a salmon cannery that's been turned into a delightful adventure theme park catering, well, for cruise ships. Now, when I say theme park, what I didn't expect were some of the really extreme outdoor attractions here at ICY Strait Point. Some of the outdoor attractions at ICY Strait Point include the world's steepest zip line plunging from 1,300 feet to sea level over a mile lasting 90 seconds. I think I'm gonna pass. Some of the other things you can do here: ATVs, nature hikes, ropes courses, and there's 2 different gondola lines, and the first one's free. Unfortunately, the second one that goes up to about 1,300 feet in elevation, where the zip lines are, is not available today because we've got to get back to the ship pretty soon. That whale watching sure makes you hungry, and as part of our excursion we have, well, not the deadliest catch but the daintiest catch. We got ourselves a crab boil with some boudin sausage and corn plus a s'more chaser. The chef is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. How about that? Who dat?
Finally, some deadliest, most delicious catch. I've been told I'm crabby, or so is the camera person. I'm happy now. Yum.
Box wine.
What do I have here? Show 2 sausages.
They're dirty sausages, so they say.
It's a boil, just like in Louisiana. Where you at? Yummy.
All right, well, we have a fairly early departure back on our ship, so I need to get back to the ship really quick. We've got to say see you later, ICY Strait Point, because we're heading to our actually last port of call, Ketchikan, Alaska. And to me, this is a personal highlight, but it's also quite a distance away, so that is why we have to leave a bit early. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe, what is that mysterious looking big ball in the sky and that blue? I think it's actually sunshine and blue skies, and sunshine, not the liquid kind of sunshine that we've been seeing this entire trip. Could we be expecting a sunny day? It's already 10 o'clock in Alaska time in the Inner Passage en route to Ketchikan, so of course, it being Alaska, the weather could change in a second, but right now it looks just beautiful. All right, so good morning, and we're pulling into Ketchikan, and I said, of course, the weather can change. We're told that we might get some sun, but right now the sun seems to be sleeping in. I guess maybe it had a late night last night, so right now we're taking this very slow and fascinating cruise right into the heart of Ketchikan. So overnight, we covered 335 miles, and this is our penultimate port of call. Of course, our last call will be the end of our cruise. Ketchikan Airport looks like an aircraft carrier. KTN is located 1 mile west of the central business district of Ketchikan on Gravina Island, just west of the city on the other side of the Tongass Narrows. Now, passengers must take a 7-minute ferry ride across the water to get to the airport from the town. Now, if you're flying the famous Alaska Airlines Milk Run up the Panhandle, this is the first or last stop of this trip. And seaplanes are also a major important form of transportation here, of course, along with ships. Why? Because the city has no direct road access to the outside world, so it relies heavily on boats and planes. This is Alaska's southernmost and 6th largest city, and it receives an average 150 inches of rainfall each year. It is known as Alaska's Rain City, and that's in a state that gets a lot of rain. Ketchikan is referred to as Alaska's first city, not because it's 125 years old, but because it's the first port in the Panhandle when heading north. Ketchikan averages 149 of rain annually. And wow, check out this massive, what they call liquid sunshine gauge. We need one of those in Florida. The only wetter town in the United States is Hilo, Hawaii, with 150 inches of annual precipitation on average. By comparison, New Orleans, Louisiana ties with Mobile, Alabama for the title of wettest city in the continental United States. Both have an annual average rainfall of just 66.1 inches. Wow, we've come to the rainiest city in Alaska, and the first day in our trip, what do we have? Sunshine, not liquid sunshine. We're here in Ketchikan, and the skies are blue, the sun is out. It's just marvelous. I think it's my favorite port of all. And just like in Juneau, I love to read sign language. Look at all these really cool signs all over Ketchikan, and some of them are pretty quirky. But this is the most famous one. Just like in Welcome to Las Vegas or Welcome to Reno, look at the Welcome to Ketchikan sign. You cannot miss this one. All right, here I go zillowing again, but this time we're going up the boardwalk streets of Bayview Street overlooking the harbor of Ketchikan. So I'm getting my steps in and my climb in, giving this kind of a San Francisco meets Hong Kong vibe here with a slash of taste of Pacific Northwest. This is truly some fun northern exposure as we check out some of the homes here. And check out some of these flags. It looks like one's from Norway. I think it feels a lot like Norway. So, up to 6 cruise ships at a time can arrive here. That's more than double the population, which is 8,500 approximate year-round. And this is the first or last port of call on a typical Alaska cruise. In our case, it's the last port that we're going to stop at before we tomorrow have a full day at sea and then sadly arrive back in Vancouver, which is a beautiful place. But I'm going to miss this town. God, look how beautiful. So look, we have eagles and settlers. Key West isn't the only rock. Check out the rocks here in these statues. So gosh, there's just so much to see here in Ketchikan, but this is the highlight. This is what I've been dreaming of. This is the quintessential, that Alaska Panhandle village. This is Creek Street, which is a delightful boardwalk of shops, homes, and salmon runs running along the Ketchikan Creek. Ketchikan is known as the salmon capital of the world, and this is thanks to healthy wild salmon runs and a passionate fishing community dedicated to making sure the runs stay strong. This is something else. I know you're watching the video, but I wish you could smell the wood mingling with the water. Just divine. Well, here we are on Creek Street, and I sure prefer this streaming to Netflix. Ketchikan Creek is a salmon spawning stream on this beautiful island. It heads in a lake and travels through downtown Ketchikan to Tongass Narrows. The historic Creek Street in Ketchikan runs along the creek banks as a piling perched boardwalk. And yes, there's so many fish here. It's like shooting fish in a barrel in this quintessential Alaska town where the salmon are swimming upstream to the hatchery of their birth, which is melancholy, but that again is the circle of life. totem town, as they call it. Ketchikan, Alaska is home to the world's largest collection of totem poles. There's actually a totem pole museum, but you can see here from the outside, man, what a bummer. It's closed, and I've got a long walk back to the ship anyway, because it's not going to wait for me if I'm late. I just cannot get enough of the Ketchikan waterfront, particularly Thomas Basin, which was completed in 1933. This waterfront is just the quintessential Alaska waterfront, and it wins the award. It feels like we could be in, I don't know, Nova Scotia or Maine, but we are here in Alaska, and this is just a sight to behold. I like to use this phrase, target rich, to describe a place where I'm just taking so many still pictures and videos that my brain's about to explode in. Ketchikan is just so target rich, photographically speaking. I just couldn't resist showing you guys a few more odds and ends. I think it's time to grab an afternoon drink with the locals at this local dive, and this is a special one, the Potlatch. And you can see that this really services the people who work in the waterfront, not the tourists. It's a bit off the beaten path. And by the looks of it, this is one of the few places that is open all year round here in Ketchikan, servicing people who work on the boats and in the marina. Gosh, this town has a whole lot of vibe, just a whole lot of beauty. Ketchikan you later. Here's some parting shots from Ketchikan as we slowly push away and leave this beautiful, beautiful town. So warm, so friendly, and just picturesque. So it's actually something we haven't seen. We didn't see sunshine until today, really, through the trip, and certainly we haven't seen a true sunset at sea. So this is our first true sunset with golden hour and dusk, and it is just magnificent, but very, very, very brisk. And it's around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock when we're taking these pictures, and just look at it. Absolutely stunning. So remember I was telling you about the restaurants? So why don't I show you a little bit of montage of meals. I took a bunch of video of food the whole time and still pictures, and my wife and I think probably some of the staff were getting a little annoyed, but this is my montage of meals, amusing bouches, and sumptuous snacks. Dining really was pitch perfect. The service, the cuisine, the staff were truly wonderful. They picked up on my food allergies, prepared special menus, and they proactively asked about this no matter where we dined. And our retreat guest-only restaurant, Luminaire, was our go-to, but even the mainline Cosmopolitan and Blue restaurants were top-notch. Can you describe what this concoction is? What do we have here?
We have summer rolls, this one. It comes with the jicama, pepper, and this carrots, cilantro inside.
It's gorgeous.
And this is sweet chili pie.
The wine and spirits list is beyond reproach. The retreat class Luminaire happy hour reception was always eagerly awaited. The staff throughout the ship are truly what makes this place special. However, I just have no quibbles, just praise. Kudos to Celebrity Cruises for alimentary awesomeness. And thank goodness for the gym and very, very active days. Otherwise, I would have put on so much weight and we'd have to be rolled off the boat Willy Wonka style. So one of the cool things about Celebrity Cruises, and really any cruise ships, are the shows, and this ship has damn good shows. I'm just going to show you some clips and some snippets, but some of these things can be cheesy, but I have to tell you, we went to 3 shows on the summit, and they were really a blast.
Good evening. How is everybody doing out there? Let me hear it.
Well, you know, as the song says, I want to soak up the sun. I'm going to stop there. I have a terrible singing voice. But it's the last day of the cruise and a full day of just exquisite sunshine and light seas as we make our way down the inner passage of the open Pacific Ocean. So we're going to go out into the seas a little bit. Might get a little choppy, but it's just spectacular.
Create that feeling. The sun on your skin, as great as breathing. Filling the spaces within. Running around, are we there yet? Music is not where we all met. Oh, let's risk time. Gather around, watch the sun go.
The air temperature is 59 degrees with light winds. It's just a gorgeous day to end an epic voyage on the Celebrity Summit. So I'm going to take advantage of just walking around, relaxing, and trying that retreat lounge again in the hot tub, because I don't really want to get in the water this entire trip, but today, even with the cold temperatures, the sunshine feels a lot warmer. So now here is our last evening at sea, and so some parting salvos from this beautiful cruise. We are really on the summit, and it's just been magical. And so as you can see here in the evening, we are in the Campbell River now on the inside passage of Vancouver Island, British Columbia. So really making our way down, and as you can see, it's winding our way through this area, and a lot of cruise ships and a lot of ship traffic and also ferry traffic and commercial traffic, but we're in protected water, so it looks to be a very calm and beautiful night as we look at these beautiful, beautiful, spectacular sunsets. I think if I put $1 in the tip jar for every time I said beautiful on this cruise, I could pay for the cruise. Beautiful has just been my go-to cliche word, but wow, it truly is. So after 7 fabulous days and nights cruising the inner passage on board the Celebrity Cruises Summit, we've arrived to the end of our voyage in Vancouver, British Columbia, where it's very early in the morning here, and I'm going to say it's going to be sad to get off. You know, cruising has never really been our thing, but this voyage might have just changed that. The entire experience just exceeded our expectations. The ports, the excursions, the views, the food and beverage, and most of all, the crew. Our ship, the Summit, is one of the older ships in Celebrity's fleet, and certainly one of the smaller ones too, but in this case, this Millennium Series ship that first sailed in the 2000s just feels so modern and so fresh, and intimate. I just feel like we own it, the perfect size for us. And certainly it's an intimate boat by comparison, but wow, for us, it just really, really fit. A big thanks to the crew and just the whole experience, but a lot of this was planned by Allison Arano Greenfield, who's a friend back in Miami who runs a cruise ship travel agency, and we booked the cruise through her, and she really worked to understand our desires and suggested options that we never would have thought of, and she guided us and planned this cruise with the attention she would for her own family and never gave us any hard sell. So big thanks to her. Big thanks to Alaska, the ship, and this cruise. Everything was pretty hard to beat, but we're going to aim to try again. But for now, bon voyage, and welcome to Vancouver. All right, well, you know, it's a little depressing to end your vacation and a cruise, but it softens the blow a little bit when you are in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is a major place for beginning cruise ships, ending cruise ships, and certainly one of my favorite cities. I've been here many times, actually was here exactly a year ago, and it's just one of the world's most beautiful, spectacular cities. And you can watch our Vancouver video from when we went coast to coast on the train. That's we'll put that in the playlist. But this is called the Hub of the Sunshine Coast, and as I said, it is spectacular today. The clouds and cool temps have been norm for me, but not today. It was glorious in the low 70s. They say it's going to be in the 80s and maybe even 90s this week, but it's 105 degrees back home in terms of heat index, so we'll take it. We only have a day of layover here, so re-entry is going to feel like a re-entry from space, but we're going to make the best of it and have a little fun for our last day here in Vancouver. All right, so something I always do when I come to Vancouver and did last time I was here, again, just a year ago, was cycle the massive gem of Stanley Park. And we're gonna go to English Bay Beach and Granville Island and just circle the park. It's about 15 miles when we do it round trip the way we're gonna do it. And so here's just some clips of some of the beautiful scenery, because this time, unlike last time, we actually have sunshine. You know, sometimes you're just vacationed out, you're just tired, and it's time to head to the hotel and get some sleep because we have a big day of flying tomorrow. But wow, this again has been a just mesmerizingly spectacular trip. And we have another adventure planned for this summer. That one's going to be pretty hard to beat too. But for now, the Sloans are heading back south. And again, we'll see you next time, Alaska, America's 49th state. North to the future. Northern exposure rocks.